It's 6 o'clock, so we'll get started. There's agendas up here. If any of you want to see the agenda for tonight or you don't already have a copy, you're welcome to pick up a copy. The first thing tonight, we'll go through the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by the way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to the exit building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles. The first item will be roll call.
Stanley Hedrick.
Here.
Brian King.
Here.
Larry Chesney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of last meeting minutes. Are there any changes that the members would like to make, or do I hear a motion to approve as written? Stanley makes a motion and Brian seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. The approval of last meeting minutes are approved. For those of you that may not have been here before for one of these meetings, let's explain the process briefly. There's 3 items on the agenda. As each item comes up, Thomas will give a very brief summary, and then we will ask if anyone is in favor of that request, come to the podium and with a microphone, tell us your name, and tell us, add anything that you would like to add to what Thomas has spoken. Then we'll give anyone that's opposed to that request an opportunity to speak. And then the board will have a discussion with both parties or anybody that's a part of that particular request. And then we'll vote on to accept or deny the request. So any questions? Okay, the first one is 814 Mackenzie Drive in Maryville.
Yeah.
Excuse me, just 1 minute. Hold on. Thomas?
Yeah. Let me just give a quick summary.
You stay there.
And
You're okay.
I was having trouble with my microphone, but I think we're ready to go now. And I think, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, since we do have a quorum tonight, but we have 3 people, so all votes tonight will have to be unanimous votes. So I think the public should be made aware of that, and if any applicant were so inclined to want us to wait and on their item, they certainly would have the right to do that. But I just want to put down for the record. So with this item, the Mackenzie Drive, the applicant has requested a variance on the rear yard setback requirements. And according to the foundation survey, at its furthest extent, it extends about 6.3 feet into the rear setback, and their request is based. So the hardship that they're claiming in the request is steep slope, about a 21% grade on the front of the property. So they have shifted the entire footprint back to try to accommodate the floor plan that they've picked for this property. Currently, the permit is under stop work for some other issues, but one of which includes the setback encroachment. And when inspection staff went out, they noticed that it was encroaching and asked for the survey at that time. And just for a point of discussion that maybe we'll have later on, maybe we don't need to, but if you'll recall last month's meeting, there was quite a bit Mr. Hedrick brought up about overhangs and that sort of thing, and how they play into setbacks. So what the request is, or at least how it's presented here, is to accommodate the foundation, should the board want to do that. But if if the board decides to approve this variance, you may also want to take into consideration making it to where it can accommodate any overhangs, just because of current interpretation. That's all I have, sir.
Sorry for the delay. Your name, please?
John Ware.
John Ware? You want anything to add to what Thomas shared?
No, that's pretty much it for that lot. The front slope, the driveway is at 21 degrees. You really can't get any steeper than that. And the lot's so small to meet the community, the subdivision requirements for square footage. We went as shallow of a floor plan as we could, and the lot line angles back. So at the closest point to the lot line, I think it's the 6.3, and then it widens after that. And it's actually a backyard of another neighbor, so it's not like it's encroaching and there's a house right there. The other house is actually set up into the subdivision, and that's their backyard. So
Are you the owner, the builder, or
I'm the builder.
you builder? Is it a spec home?
It's actually purchased. It's for somebody.
The fence behind the house, how does the fence compare to the property line?
That's the adjacent owner's fence.
Is it on the property line?
It's probably set in a little bit from there, but I don't know. I mean, it's actually set in a couple of feet, I think, on that section.
But it's close.
Yeah.
John, what are you going to do about that front left corner?
As far as,
Well, the foundation is cracked.
I've got an engineered solution to it. It's when they were backfilling the gravel, the operator turned, knocked that basically just pushed that section of wall out. So we have an engineered solution for that.
So it didn't fall by itself.
No.
The Thomas, the 6.3 variance, there is 6.3 of what, 20 or 10? Or?
I think it's
The button
20.
doesn't work on this one, but it is 20 feet.
It's 20 feet setback, not
So-
a 10-foot setback.
Okay, so the 14 feet here that's on the drawing is what they're saying they're requesting. And the official setback, that 14 should have been 20. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Is that the only issue before us?
Before this board, yes, sir. It's the setback encroachment is the only.
So he's asking for 6 feet of the 20 feet.
Yeah, well, I think that's maybe a little confusing. They've put that call out there to show where 14 feet is, but if you look at the furthest corner, you see the 6.3 feet. That would be from the required setback to the furthest point that it's extending out. So it actually, they're in a little further than 14, so you need 20, and it's a little more than 6, so.
You lost me. I see I understand the 20 and the 14.
Yes, sir,
I understand
20.
you subtract the two, you get 6.
Correct, but
We need 6.3
They
to be
need
good.
6.3. I don't know that 14-foot call out should even really be on there. That kind of muddies the water a little bit.
So if you moved it 6 feet, you'd be okay?
Yes, sir. On the farthest right corner, and then it opens up from there. So we're good for the rest of the house. It's actually a 14-foot section of the house. So right at the edge of the corner is we need 6.3 feet.
And I would remind the board that 6.3 shows where the foundation sits. So, any roof overhangs, the eaves or anything like that would actually extend further into that
So
setback.
you can assume there's another foot to 18 inches.
Maybe that's the
14 inches.
Overhang.
Now, and of course I didn't do that drawing, but he should have accounted for that, because that's the way when he does a footer survey for the city municipalities or whatever, he should have accounted for that. But
Most often they're shown as a you have the bold line for the foundation because it's
Right.
existing.
And a
then you
hatched
usually
line.
have a hashed line that
Gotcha.
shows that any overhangs, which isn't on here, but if you know that it's 14
So we need to
inches.
ask for
Yeah.
7.5 feet?
Yeah, well, yeah, 7.5, maybe 8, just to be on the safe side.
8 feet at that closest area?
John, why was there no footing inspector prior to construction?
Well, we used Geo Services to do our foundation. That initially was a field site. The original developer of the subdivision had a big trailer up there and all this chain link fence and barn and stuff. And we actually cleared all that out, and it was all fill. So when we went in, we had an engineering firm come in and do our footer foundation, and we did that on a couple lots. And so then after we did that, we found out that Blount County now, they want you, last year they were, if you used an engineering firm or a third-party inspector, they were fine with that acceptance, but now they want to do that on their own. And so we actually learned that on that first go-around. So we're actually building one across the street, and we got a foundation inspection. But we did it because it was a field site, so we wanted to make sure the footer was fine. So when we got it inspected, in years past, Blount County was fine with just, they didn't want to come out and see it, just send us the letter and we're good. So that's what we did. But from as of, I think, the end of last year, they've started where they want to, they want to see all of them. So,
Okay.
of course, we're doing that moving further forward.
Okay.
Is this a footer or a slab?
It's a slab. It's a footer with a
Turn down.
2 runs of block and then pour a slab.
Yeah, if you just drive by, you get the impression that the footer failed without any weight on it.
You do, but that's actually not the case. The operator did that. I mean, we were there when he did it, so we just we got an engineered fix solution for it, and once we wanted to get through. We actually didn't know until the inspector caught it. The surveyor laid out the foundation. I didn't go lay out the foundation and then find out that it didn't pass. The surveyor laid out the foundation. We laid the block, and then when we had the inspector come, he said, "Well, aren't you a little close?" Well, I just assumed we were fine, and he pointed that out. So then we were already talking about the engineered fix on the front, and then we went through this process. So we haven't done anything, haven't fixed anything, touched anything until we go through this process.
What is the engineered fix?
He's got some rebar tied in to tie that corner together, coming both ways. It's
Jack it back up?
well, nothing sank. All it did was it's about 3.5 feet tall, and they backfilled it with gravel. And when he turned on that edge, it basically just pushed a section of wall out. So we actually have to go in and pin that block to the existing block, and then it'll all be poured solid. So no footer. The footer didn't sink or nothing fail. It just basically the pressure pushed it out.
Did you have it surveyed after you got this down, or did you have a survey before you started?
He lays out the footer before we dig it.
But he's got a survey somewhere.
Yeah, no, I know. The surveyor lays it out. I'm not exactly sure how we encroached without him just missing that, or I think on site he was trying to push it back as far as he could, and maybe not paying attention to the 20-foot rear setback. Our surveyors from Sevier County, the standard Sevier County setback's 15 feet. I mean, we'd still be 1 foot in, but I'm not really sure how we got there. We knew that the front elevation, the driveway's steep now, and we're as far back as we could go. So I'm not really sure how that happened, because he comes in and pins it, we dig it, he comes back and pins it, and the block lays. So it's just something that he missed, trying to get the foundation back as far as it could to make the driveway work, and then he missed that back corner.
What kind of, you said here it's got some other issues. What's the other issues on the stop work?
Keep trying to push the button on this microphone. The structural issues that he was speaking of in the engineer letter.
Any more questions for John? Is there anyone here opposed to this request? Okay. Are you through with John?
Yes.
Oh, excuse, okay, go ahead.
Yes, my name's Ron Tobler.
Ron
and-
Topler?
Tobler, T-O-B-L-E-R.
All right, Ron.
And I'm a resident of Mackenzie Place subdivision. I built a house in there in 2013. I started it. So I know about building. My dad's a builder. And I was given misinformation when I bought my lot, and that was back in '07. I was told there was a 25-foot setback. Well, I designed my own house. I called my surveyor up when I was ready to start construction in 2013. He called me that night, said, the front setback's 35 feet. I said, well, I was misinformed. I bought the lot, I'm responsible, and I should have checked with the Register of Deeds. So I learned that lesson. But as a builder, you are the sole responsibility. You can't blame a surveyor, he put my corners wrong spot. You can't blame carpenter, he did this wrong. The builder is the sole responsible person for any building. When I built, I looked at all the codes for Tennessee. I'm from Florida. I'm used to stringent codes. Up here, they're pretty lax, even with their codes. But on foundation and so forth, if you go a certain height, you have to have a compaction test. You have to have that tested, especially if you're doing a slab. Well, here with the footer walls, you can get around that because you have so much sloped ground. Well, they did put a lot of fill on this lot and moved dirt around a lot. And then they're going to put a slab house up there. And yeah, you can see that front left corner falling off. I think, and not only my concern, but the other residents, is a shoddy house built. Plus, this is right in the very front of the subdivision, so it's very noticeable. And if this house is going to be falling apart in the years to come, you know, not only will the new owner of that have financial responsibility to correct it, but it, you know, is going to be an eyesore to the community. So our concern is, and I can see a variance for a little bit of setback, but, you know, we're looking at 8 feet or so. You know, that's, you know, really trying to push things a lot. You know, it should have been checked and, you know, decided, and a variance gotten ahead of time. I had to get a variance on mine because I could not shrink my house. I already had it designed. And I mean, if I couldn't get the variance, well, I would have to, you know, punt, redesign another house or whatever. But people, you know, try to just get away with what they want. I don't agree with that. I understand he's trying to make a living and do something, but I guess those are my concerns. Main thing is at the construction is going to be satisfactory, safe, and of that nature. You have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you got a variance on your house, you say? To build, when you built there, you got a variance?
Yes.
And how much of a variance did you get for setbacks?
3 feet.
3 feet?
I could have came, I was planning on 25 feet. But I know from the street, if one house is sticking out and others and so forth, so I told the council then I would keep the 35, but I would protrude 3 feet in the back. So I have a 17-foot setback instead of 20. And I'm on the end lot, so I also have 20 on the side. Well, that was given me correctly when I built, so at least that was not a surprise as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Yes, come forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly White.
Kimberly White.
White, W-H-I-T-E. I'm also a resident of McKenzie Place and have been there since 2009 and have been watching the construction of many houses out there since I moved in. The foundation of which we're talking about, the blocks around 814 McKenzie, there are like several places around all sides of the house where the block is not intact. So I don't know, but I don't think it would be too late, of course, at this point, for it to come down and be put where it's supposed to be. Also, I'd like to know when the engineer was hired to solve the problem. And Geo Services, I have tried and have not been able to find out there's a method to what I'm asking. I have tried and have not been able to find out who the actual owner is of this property. I was told it was LD Partners LLC. And then when I looked that up, I found out that one of the people listed actually owns Geo Services. So I'm not sure if that is correct. But that's just another question that I had. If that was...
Your question is who owns the property?
Yes. I've not been able to find out the actual owner, not the builder, but the actual owner of that property. And like Gary, or Ron said, I always call him Gary at the meetings in the subdivision, we are concerned, and there were more that were going to be here tonight, but we were concerned and still are concerned. Our property values have gone up, not due to these homes being built, but due to the others that have been built in the subdivision. And we don't want, especially at the front of the subdivision, there's 3 properties that have stop work orders on them. I think one has been lifted. And we don't want our property appraisals to go down, and would like to see them keep going up. And also, this property is listed still on Zillow, so I'm not sure who has bought it, but if it's been sold, it still is listed as of like right now. But we are, we have been watching, and with the mud issues running off from all the property that's been, all the mud that's been put up there, which is just red clay mud. It's just been, it's been a mess for us in the subdivision. And it's been looking at the property, even just getting out and looking at parking on the road and looking at it. As far back as it goes on that lot, it looks like it almost goes to the neighbor's fence. Like if you're gonna, it doesn't look big enough at the end of the lot, at the back of the lot, especially if there's gonna be an overhang, any type of patio on the back of that house, there's not gonna be anything left except the neighbor's fence. And those are my concerns and issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Erin Landrum, and I'm also a resident of McKenzie Place. I have a bit of mixed emotions about this house. The only reason that I would be in favor of a variance is so that he can build and leave, because it has caused a lot of damage and a lot of problems since he started. The driveway is extremely steep. I would not want to have to go up that driveway. But I will say that the dirt could have been hauled off prior to building the house. It was a pile of dirt that needed to be moved and not leveled out, but instead it was just moved around, and the natural grade that should have been there is gone. So yes, there's a slope, but there's a reason that there is a slope. But if he puts it any closer to the road, I don't know what kind of shape the driveway would be in, but it could have been a better situation had it been done properly before he started. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Aaron. Anyone else would like to speak for the commission? Discussion among the members? Let's talk about the stop work. Who issued the stop work? Or is that any of our business?
No, it is. It's part of the building permit. And so it was, actually, glad I brought it with me, but the violation was posted on June the 7th. Comments are, there's 2 areas along the foundation wall that need to be addressed and repaired before moving forward. And back property pin needs to be located to identify setbacks, and at that time is when they requested the foundation or as-built survey.
I guess you have to accept the fact that the blocks were kicked off by a front-end loader or whatever. But who has the liability if the natural slope goes down to the left as you face the house, and it's obviously filled on the left side? Who has the responsibility to say that that area was compacted correctly before the concrete was poured for the footer? Who has that?
So just to piggyback, maybe clarify a few things that Mr. Ware mentioned earlier. Yes, the county did institute a new policy or procedure around the first of the year where we no longer accept engineers' letters in lieu of inspections. We've always taken engineered letters, and there's a lot of circumstances where we have to have an engineer letter, such as cases where there's a lot of fill. The engineer would do, and I'm not an engineer or a building inspector, so I may get the terminology mixed up, but when there is, so much fill, an engineer has to provide in writing certifying that it's suitable, compacted or compactable and all that stuff. But starting I think it was about January, the only engineer letters we take now are ones that we ask for, like in that circumstance. And what had happened before, and there's a lot of different reasons for it, but builders were providing engineer letters for the inspection of footings without a county inspector having looked at it, and those were accepted for a long time. but we put a stop to that about January.
Well, let me ask a question a different way. Who ran the compaction test before you poured the concrete? They ran a compaction test, and go ahead. So there was an engineering firm that ran a compaction test on that fill area that said it was okay to pour the slab.
Yes,
To
sir.
pour the footer.
Yes, sir. And the building department has a copy of it. So, as far as the fill dirt goes, there's been a mound of dirt up there. Justin Teague with the stormwater, you know, he basically, we've tried to clean it up, and I know it's not in a good situation, but you know, he's basically told us it's been silt runoff, water's been coming off that hill. Now, when you start construction, you move barns and you move all that stuff. You know, there's probably some of that was damming it up. So we've worked to get all that stuff situated, which we have. But as far as dropping that house down, we've got on the short side 14 feet. Okay, so if we lower that house down, this still stays up here, and you've got a big pond in the backyard. That's never going to work, and you're going to run it off somewhere else. So I would love to have taken all that out and the driveway not been steep and everything worked out perfectly, but it's just the way that lot was put in there. It just, the farther we dropped it down, the bigger pond we made in the backyard. So we either flooded the house we're building or kept it up there. I mean, no one likes a 21% driveway, you know, so that's why we did what we did. As far as the compaction goes, we had Geo Services do it because there was just mounds of dirt all over that place, and we tried to move it out and clean it up the best we could.
How much of that pad's on fill dirt? All of it?
No, none of it. We're on solid dirt, the whole thing.
Well, none of it's on fill dirt?
Boy, it
We're
doesn't
not on fill at all.
It doesn't look that way from the road. You're saying that left-hand side is on natural grade?
It is. It's down below. I mean, it's probably another, the footer's probably another 2-3 feet down. 2 feet down.
Who owns it? Is it a spec house? Or
I mean, that's the way it was started. I mean, we have a buyer for it, but it was started as a spec house.
well, does Geo Services own part of it?
No. It's LD Partnerships is the owner of the remaining lots in the subdivision.
Are you part of that?
I'm not. They actually put the lot up and we build the house. So I actually own the home. So, but I know Geo Services. I've used them for years. So has Blount County and Sevier County and Knox County and
Oh, yeah.
Oak Ridge National Laboratories and everybody else. So I don't think that their reputation's, you know,
How many square footage is in this house?
1,800. 1,600 is the minimum on the subdivision, and there's right at 1,800 on the house.
When they get a building permit, it's got all the setbacks and all that on it, and that's their responsibility to meet them.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah. And it's just a slab right now, right?
No, slab's not there yet,
Huh?
right? You see rock and pipe.
No, it's just block and gravel.
It's just blocking gravel.
Oh, well, that's no big deal then. What,
I mean, it's a tremendous deal, but I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's not as easy as chopping off an edge. I mean, you know, especially when there's several lots in this subdivision that's got variances. I'm not the only one. I mean, we've already heard of one, and there's several more. It's kind of a, you know,
who owns the lot behind it?
I don't know that.
Is it in this subdivision?
It is.
A home already on it?
There's a homeowner on it, yes. There's 3 lots left that are not owned by somebody.
So that, the fence behind this house, that house is in this subdivision?
It is. It's on the cul-de-sac around the corner off Micah Street.
If you put a 1,600-foot house on it, could you do away with the need for a variance? You can't slide it forward, right?
No, we can't slide it forward.
You're already over in the back.
In Blount County, is there a driveway grade?
I don't know.
No? Okay.
Restrictions are 1,600 square feet, single level, 2,100 square feet, two-story.
Right, it's a single level.
How big a house you got? No, his. What size is your house?
My house is 2,500 square feet, it's two-story.
Okay.
So the house that we're encroaching on, is that any, I don't know if I can ask that, is that anybody's here? So the actual encroachment, they're not here.
I do believe she's about 9 years old, though. She's very elderly.
What would happen?
She wouldn't have been able to come.
What would happen if you redesigned the house and could you put a house in that footprint that would meet the setbacks?
I mean,
Sure you can.
I mean, I guess you can always design something to meet something, but it's,
Well, to me, it's one thing if there was a house already built there. It's another thing if you've just got the footer in and some plumbing and stuff.
I mean, it's
It's,
tens of thousands of dollars to change that.
that would be tens of thousands of dollars for a row of block.
The block, plumbing.
If you ain't got no pad on it, it's just a foundation and some gravel and some plumbing in it.
The roof trusses,
Well, are they laying there?
they're not laying there, but they're already paid for and ready to be delivered. And I guess the only thing I've got is, I do understand the need for, make sure that the foundations are right. We don't want property values in this subdivision to go down. And they're going up, and the houses that we've sold in this subdivision have been the highest per square foot houses they've had in years.
If this is, if this has, I don't know, if this has to be changed, is the money coming out of your pocket or somebody else's?
Mine.
Are we gonna have to come back here with things on the property building, on the house you're building to the left of this one?
Lot one? You talking about the first one in the subdivision? Or the 55?
Well, where you're going up the subdivision on the left,
Right before it.
right, the house, right, the lot right beside this one.
No, it's one of the biggest lots in the subdivision. That's where the trailer and the barn and all that stuff was.
No, the trailer barn is back there on the hill.
Excuse me, if you speak, you'll need to come to the microphone. As Judge Judy says, you're not allowed to talk to each other.
I was asking if we were going to need to come back for a variance hearing on the house that is being built to the left of the one that we're here on tonight.
And the answer is?
No.
Probably.
We're good everywhere.
Okay.
It's the biggest lot in the subdivision.
Well, that's also one that's going into my neighbor's air conditioning unit with mud.
The runoff.
Did you get a variance for your house when you built?
Myself?
Yeah.
No, but I wish I had.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just jump in here real quick. I'm not trying to keep anybody from talking or anything like that. I think it's important. And I think we got to make sure that the board, you're only dealing with the variance. So unfortunately, the structural issues that may or may not be there, that's not a part of zoning. You all are only doing the zoning part, which is the setback and the variance, whether or not you're going to approve a variance. I'd also caution you guys to consider any hearsay sort of testimony. Somebody said this, you know, if that person isn't here, staff or otherwise, to, you know, something was said earlier that was a hearsay. So I would have you all take that with a grain of salt as well. And whatever action you decide to take tonight on the variance, you need to look at section 11.6. It's in the packet. So if you were to approve the variance, you need to make sure that it you know, meets with those standards, and that it specifically doesn't do any of these things. Or if you were to deny the variance, you know, and we've talked about this before, kind of make sure that it points to one of those reasons for denial within the regulations.
So when the engineer deal gets done on the foundation, Blount County's building inspector will inspect and approve that, right?
Correct. And that happens all the time.
Yep. Okay. And on the building here, it's downhill from the house to the road, right?
Right.
And up the hill to the next lot. So there's not going to be any water, are they, running off the back of the house onto the other property owner? All the water will run out to the front. Is that right?
It's not as steep in the back as it is in the front.
But it still is running toward the house.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir, there's a bank in the back.
Okay. So if he don't get his drainage right and he don't listen to Justin on the water runoff, then that's the county's problem.
No, sir. Water drainage issues aren't the county's problem. That's a civil issue. That would be between the property owners, whoever's running off. Now, the stuff going into the street, you know, the water going into the street or whatever, that's.
But it's
indicated by the
Justin's
way.
deal to make sure that the erosion is under control and that stuff.
It is Justin's to inspect and to regulate. Yes, sir. It's their deal to do it right in the first place. I'm not trying to.
Where's all the field dirt they were talking about? In the front?
Left side, left front,
Upside,
left, downside.
downside.
Yeah. Because that whole road goes up, and the house is on the left. So as you look at the house, ground slopes down to the left. Is this the only house that you didn't get a permit for? You're building 3 houses right there together?
I am.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.
And so, is this the only one that you didn't get
Variance?
an inspection before you poured the concrete?
No, they're two side by side. We got the engineered letter on the two. The one across the street, we did the permit on. We did the county inspection. Those two, we were having geoservices inspect them anyway because we didn't know what was there. There's dirt piled up, and we wanted to make sure we were on good solid ground before we built. So I got geoservices to do those two, which are side by side, and then I just submitted them to the county. And then when I submitted them, then that's when he came back and said, you know, we have to look at them too. Even if you have them look at them, give you a letter, we have to look at them too. So the one across the street, the county inspected.
Well, Thomas, I'm a little confused here. Who gave the permit to pour the concrete? Did they not have to have a county permit to pour the concrete?
We had a building permit.
Okay, you had a building permit.
Yes, sir. I just had Geo Services inspect the footers.
The county-
They've inspected everything. The county's inspected everything else.
The county gave you a building permit to put it where it is.
Yes, sir.
We issued the building permit, sir, if I may. Building permit was issued, well, I don't know what day it was issued, but it was around about the end of April. And on zoning review, staff wrote the required setbacks on the permit, just like we do on all of them for the zoning district, of 30 front, 20 rear, 10 left, 10 right. So the setbacks are on the permit that was issued to them. And then at some point after they got the permit, they had permit in hand. At some point after that, then they did the foundation work. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but then at that point you had Geo Services prepare the letter that then was sent to our building inspector. And then instead of having an inspection called in for him to go out and inspect, he got that letter, which tripped him off that something was still on, so he went out there.
Okay, so the building permit says a 20-foot setback on the back, and the guy that laid out the pins didn't follow that building permit.
I don't know what he did.
Well, it didn't put it 20 feet off the back.
You mean make a motion?
Sure.
Okay. Had they come in here before they ever done anything and asked for a 6-foot variance versus after you've done it, I would have voted for a 6-foot variance before. It's in there. I'll make a motion that we grant the variance for a 6-foot variance. It ain't gonna, still got 14 feet.
I agree with you. The thing that upsets me is it came in after the fact.
Well,
If it was
yeah.
before the fact.
I hate that because, do it and ask forgiveness later, but, and I agree with you, but
And my only defense to that is I hire a surveyor to do it so that I don't deal with this. So that's not on me. Of course, he's out of town this week, or he'd be standing right here taking these questions and telling us why. But
That's why he's out of town.
basically it had to do with the front drive. If we moved that to where it fit, the front driveway wouldn't have worked. You couldn't have gotten to the lot. And that's basically, where we're at. So
Okay, I guess I'm more upset about the structural issue of the foundation, but that's none of my business, I understand.
that's what the
That's
doctor
what Thomas just told me.
us.
That was
Yeah.
none of my business. So we're back to the 6 foot, and it's probably going to be 7 time you get the overhang.
Is there a way I can come up?
Sure, come on.
I was going to leave it,
Are you Aaron?
I am. I was going to leave it with what I said earlier, but the dirt could have been hauled off. This started in March. If the building permit was given in April, that's fine, but it started in March because the first time our house flooded from the work on this was in April, the 1st of April. And we asked, why is the dirt not being hauled off? Why are you spreading all of this dirt that was basically dirt from the houses in the neighborhood, putting it, you're just spreading it around. So yes, the houses are extremely high, but they're high not because of the natural grade of the land, because I have pictures when I moved in of what the natural grade is with a mound of dirt piled up. The dirt was moved front to back on both of those lots, which made it really high. The lots are about 15 feet higher because I have a 6-foot fence and the house is about 10 feet higher, going to be 10 foot or 5 feet, 7 feet higher than my fence. But had the dirt been moved out and it done properly from the get-go, then this wouldn't even be an issue. He could have put it the proper distance from the front, the driveway wouldn't have been as steep, but I just wanted to put that out there. It is not at the natural grade of that property. That dirt was moved and then it made it extremely high. So,
What was the grade of the property?
I mean, it was like the hill going up right there, it's a natural slope, but the two lots next to mine, which is where he's building, were almost about the same height. When the dirt was just piled up in a big mound, the actual grade was just a natural slow slope. But
Had
once,
grass.
I'm sorry?
Had grass on it.
Yes. But once they started moving the dirt around, it just piled up and piled up and piled up.
You're downstream?
Yes, I'm right next door to the one next to the one needed for
There's
variance.
two being built, and you're the next one down.
Yes, yes.
Looks like it's got about a 10-foot drop on it. They may landscape that to where that's really pretty. I made the motion.
But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
It's not the natural grade of the property.
Thank you. One more comment. This is Ron?
Yes, Ron Tobin. This is very short. The 3 lots that they're building on, well, back when I bought a lot, they were in the $40,000 range and up. Well, the lots now, that those 3 are really unbuildable lots, and because of the slope and the size of the lots. And from what I understand, they were selling for like $5,000. And so, yes, if you had a good builder and he put money into the property and construction, it would go fine and smooth. But when you get somebody who wants to cut corners and get a lot cheap and make some money, then you deal with what you get.
Well,
Okay, Stanley.
I didn't, if when you get into the land division of it, they go over that and you don't create an unbuildable lot, I don't think. So this is a buildable lot. It may take a little bit of engineering, but it's a buildable lot. But that's not our responsibility.
All right, ready for a motion, one way or the other?
I made the motion that we approve it.
Have a motion from Stanley that we approve the request. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second. Yeah, a yes is to approve.
Hedrick,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Chesney.
Yes. Make sure that house doesn't crack. You're on. Ball's in your court. Okay, Thomas, the next one is 2803 Morganton Road. It's a non-conforming use.
All right, thank you, sir. The applicant is requesting a change of a non-conforming use. The property on Morganton Road, actually a pretty large piece of property, but at the front of it is a commercial building, or a formerly commercial building, that was used for a long time as Stennett Print Shop, and before that it was Printers Inc. And the county clerk has confirmed that there's business licenses all that time, and the applicant had asserted that that use was in place until about this time last year, somewhere thereabouts, and the clerk confirmed that as well. So all that being said, we did have an established non-conforming use based on state law and the county zoning regulations. So that's not in question. What we have to look at then is to change a non-conforming use, this board would have to find that the use that is being proposed is of lesser impact than the original non-conforming use. So we're still within that 30-month window where a grandfathered use doesn't go away. So after 30 months, when a grandfathered use ceases, then it has to be reestablished as something conforming, which now would be something residential. So we are still within that window in which, either the other use could be reestablished, or the board could possibly consider, another non-conforming use. And in the applicant's application, he mentions that his proposed use would be primarily for storage of his landscaping equipment and supplies, and an office for doing paperwork for his landscaping business. So staff would recommend approval if the board can find that this use is of lesser impact than the previous use. That's all I have, sir.
Anyone here in favor?
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm David Flynn. I'm the current owner.
I'm sorry?
My name is David Flynn.
David Flynn?
David Flynn, F-L-Y-N-N. I'm the current owner. I purchased the property in April of this past year, or this year. We bought the property. It was a good deal, and it's only a mile from my house, and I was looking for a place to get my trailer and my landscape tools out of my garage. I have 2 young children, and their Hot Wheels and bicycles were just taking up too much space in my garage. So we got a very good deal on the property. The property is currently 5 acres. It's a long, skinny lot. The middle of the property has a double wide on a foundation on it, which is currently rented. We have a renter that moved in just a couple weeks ago. The back of the property has another double wide, which is in very poor condition, but I have intentions, as soon as I can make a little bit of money, to fix it up and get that rented as well. On the very front of the property is the building at question. It's a 40 by 90, kind of like a warehouse style building. It's just a concrete slab with wooden walls and 1 garage door. As Thomas spoke, it was used. I spoke with the neighbors, and they said about a year ago it was in full operation. They had a couple of employees, 3 or 4 employees, 5 employees that were there on a daily basis. They were using a lot of printing chemicals. A lot of stuff was going into the ground, into the septic, I'm sure. We had the septic and everything dug up and checked before we bought the property to make sure it was all safe and, good, and everything came back clear. My use for the business, my landscape business, is not anything big. I don't want anything big. It's myself, and I have 1 subcontractor that helps me out a couple days a week, and I have right now a high school kid that just graduated who's helping me out like 1 or 2 days a week to get me caught up. I fell behind this spring due to a chainsaw injury. But my primary use for the building is going to be basically just a place to keep my mostly hand tools. I have 2 small trailers, a 6x10 and a 5x10 trailer that I'll be keeping inside the building. So they're not going to be out in the yard. I don't have any equipment as far as skid steers, lawn mowers, track hose, backhoes. I don't have any large equipment. I'm a very small, just me, 1 pickup truck and 1 trailer. So my plan is to, since it's so close to my house, the reason I purchased it is to drive over there in the morning, load up a couple of tools, maybe grab a trailer, go to work, come home in the evening, drop off my tools in my trailer, and go back to my house. And it frees up my driveway and my yard of a trailer, and my garage of a trailer and a whole bunch of tools. So I'm just looking to have it reconformed so I can use it for my landscaping. Basically a storage place is all it is. There's gonna be no impact on the property. Since I moved in April, I've been mowing and taking care of and doing cleanup and pruning and taking care of the property on a weekly basis. And the neighbors have told me that prior to me purchasing it, the last owner would maybe maintain the property twice a year, 3 times a year. It got really out of hand. And so I'm hoping that I can clean the place up, fix it up. I have intentions of putting new siding and a new roof on the building if this is all approved and I can afford it soon. But it's just going to basically be a storage shed where I pick up material in the morning and leave in the evening, drop it off in the evening. That's pretty much it.
Can you get your trailers in that garage door that's on the right?
Yes, sir. I have 2 small trailers. That's all I have is, I just bought actually a small little dump trailer, and I purposely bought it so I could fit it inside the garage so it will not be out in the yard and it won't be outside. I bought one with the tires that are underneath it instead of the wide wheel well, so it'll fit in the garage. And there's really, the only thing that I might ever keep outside is if I have some extra stones or something like that left over from a retain. I do a lot of pond work. I have a business called Perennial Ponds, and I do small koi ponds. So if I ever have a job where I have an extra, wheelbarrow or 2 of rock or gravel, or a couple of paver stones or something left over, I might put them out back. I already put up a small fence in the back that will kind of keep it secluded. There's a little small aluminum or steel shed that was back there that was all kind of rusted and dilapidated. So I put up a fence to block that so none of the neighbors will be able to see it. And if I ever have extra straw or hay left over from doing seeding or strawing, I have 3 bales or something like that on a pallet sitting in there right now. But otherwise, everything is going to be inside the building, and there will be, like you said, I don't think there's going to be any impact on the land, especially considering what it used to be with all the printing chemicals and the employees that were constantly there using the property. So there shouldn't be any impact on the property at all, except for maintenance. When we moved in, there was also a very serious termite problem that we eradicated at the bill of over $1,500.
Just an open 40 by 90? The inside of the building is just open 40 by 90?
When you walk in the front door, there's a small office that's about 8 by 10. Next to it is just a small little storage room that's 8 by 10. And then there's the garage door next to that, and then it's wide open all the way to the back. In the back, there's 2 small bathrooms, and there's this little shed that he built on the back of it that's not used for anything right now because it's not insulated or secure or safe in any way, so it's just an empty shed. And then there's 2 more small rooms that he had them as a dark room that was full of like chemicals and these big aluminum or steel bathtubs and stuff, and a printing room. So there's 2 more little small rooms in the far back of it. But I'd say of the 40 by 90 building, I'd say 40 by about 65 of it is one giant open building with just, I have one big table down the middle of it for me to just put my weed eaters and my leaf blower and stuff on and stuff like that, and grass seed, just keep it up off the ground. So that's it.
Any questions for David? Anyone here opposed to this request? Thomas, did you get any complaints from the neighbors?
No, sir.
Because there's a house on both sides. I mean, there's a house on one side and there's a house on the other.
Haven't had any questions or comments.
So the issue is, if the time had lapsed, he would had to come in for a non-conforming. But as a result of the timing, this is just an extension of the previous grandfather.
Yeah, it's sort of converting the previous grandfather use. Now, if the time had expired, so if it was 2.5 years from last summer, so 1.5 years from now, there wouldn't be any other options. It would have to be, residential is the only thing it could be.
Okay. Any questions for David? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to accept.
I have a motion to accept from Brian.
Second.
Stanley is second. Roll call.
Hedrick,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Chesney.
Yes. So you landscape away.
That's good way. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. All right, the third one is a request for campground on 8388 North River Road. And your GPS will not take you there.
All right, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So we're kind of all over the place today. We've covered the county, and we've got a a little bit of every kind of use you could think of, but, so the applicants who are here tonight, that they're under contract to purchase this property with the desire of developing a 74-lot RV park campground. As you mentioned, it's a little over 40 acres. It's zoned R1, which is residential, and it's located, as you found, it's located between Wares Valley Road and the river there. The specific use as a campground is permitted in that district, subject to review and approval of a special exception, which is what we're preliminarily here for tonight. And a few years ago, the county adopted a pretty extensive list of campground-specific restrictions for campgrounds. So any such approval or development of a campground would be subject to those regulations as well. So as I mentioned, this is sort of a preliminary step. Staff has gone through it once and reviewed the proposal with the applicant. We had a meeting, our development review committee met, Highway Department, Stormwater Planning, everybody met with them and went through their plan. At that time, we suggested maybe a traffic impact study would be required so we could get a better understanding of how this campground would affect Wares Valley in particular. There's also some site distance issues there, and it is a TDOT road, so we need input from them as well. So that being said, the applicants requested that a traffic study ain't cheap. I mean, honestly. So they, before they sink money into getting the traffic study and you know, fully revising the plans and having them, you know, all the T's crossed and I's dotted as far as our regulations and those sorts of things, they requested sort of a preliminary review by this board, because if it looks like the use itself isn't going to fly, then they're not going to sink money into the property that one, they haven't closed on yet, and two, they still need some pretty significant engineering sort of things to get a plan that ultimately will be approvable by you guys. So that being said, staff would say that you know, if you're approving this, you should take care to condition it with a requirement for a traffic study and the full site plan that would meet all of our requirements. We'd bring it back to you with the site plan at that time. That's all I have. The applicants are here, their engineers here.
Anyone here in favor of this request?
My name is Derek Jones.
Derek Jones.
Derek Jones, yes sir, with Sterling Engineering. We basically have, unlike some of the requests you guys get, I guess, from time to time, we're trying to kind of start at the beginning and work our way through this thing. We put together a concept plan, which I think is in the packet, basically to give you all, as a board and of course staff, kind of an overview of what we'd like to do, what the Messers would like to do with the campground. You know, the intent is to develop something nice there while keeping the character of the property. I think that's the most critical thing. The Little River's there, of course, and as you can see from the concept, you know, the intent's not to go in and pack them in and use the whole property. As Thomas said, where we're at is we've met with staff through the concept plan, which is not at all intended to be a site plan for you all. So we're not looking for any kind of approval with regard to that. We'll come back for that if we get to that stage. Some of the things have been identified as a traffic study. There were some questions about the water service, electric service, you know, all of the things that staff should point out. The owners or the potential buyers, the Messers, have met with Tuckaleechee Water District to ensure that the property can be serviced by them, and they have a letter from them stating such. The electric company as well says that they can serve the property. We have a proposal from traffic engineer, Cannon & Cannon, out of Knoxville, who does a lot of TDOT work. for the traffic study. We have that in hand. Where we're at is before I can wholeheartedly advise them to spend, I think it was $7,500 on a traffic study and money with us to develop the water plans and all of the plans that go along with that. I felt like that it would be a wise idea to make sure that the use was going to be acceptable, assuming all of those things actually are able to be worked out, and they should be. But at this point, that's what we're requesting, is that the board look at it purely on a use basis for a campground or a RV park in that area, contingent, obviously, upon all the things that Thomas mentioned that are site review related, which we'll come back for. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I'm sure the Messers would probably like to tell you something, so I'll step down.
Good evening. I'm here. My name is Noel Gilbreth, and I've been working with the Messers. I'm their real estate agent for the seller. His name is Dr. James Burns. Y'all may know him. He's lived down here forever. Grew up in Townsend. Jim couldn't be here tonight. He's recovering from a surgery, and he just wanted me to let you guys know that I've sold a lot of land for him down there, and he's always wanted to be, as much as he could, he'd like to know that what's being built is something that's good and nice and well done. And when I proposed the Messers plan to him, one of the big things was he wanted good quality, and that was easy for me to show him because the Messers had rehabbed the old, I think it was the Family Inn in Townsend, and I don't know if you guys ever drove down there, but it's always been in pretty rough shape, and it is gorgeous now. So when Clevie and Sheila came to me, I said, he'll like to know that that's the kind of folks that we're dealing with. And then from that point on, engineering and the folks that they've hired to help them, they've done everything, it seems to me, that they could do to please everyone and do a quality project. And I just wanted you guys to know that. Let's see if I had anything on here. We know the Burns and the Hedrick. Hedrick's property adjoins this or butts up to the side of it, and Lowell has been very helpful and very supportive. Seems to have no problem with it. Something that, and that was very important to Jim. Something else that was important to Dr. Burns was there's an old cemetery on there. It's probably 100 and something years old. I think the oldest graves, I want to say 1807 or something like that, 1804. But I've checked into it before, and it is a legal requirement on that type of cemetery that whoever owns it gives some reasonable access to the cemetery, and Burns has been keeping it up thus far, but he did like the idea that the Messers were going to improve the fencing around it, greatly enhance the ability to, I believe they're going to do a nice turn-off egress and ingress lane so that people, right now it's very hard to get into, and it's just a little dirt road down to the cemetery. So that will be protected if that's a concern that anyone has. And like I say, my seller certainly did. We've talked about business benefits and that sort of thing, and you guys know enough about that, and taxes. Right now it's in a green belt, so I think the taxes are just several $100s a year. And like I say, just from the interest that I've had from other people, neighbors I've talked to, it seems like now's the time there. I don't believe there's been one built there in several years. There seems to be a lot of demand for high-end RV camping. Some of these things are several $100,000 that people want to come down and spend their money in your county. So just hope you'll consider it. And like I say, I think the Messers have just, they just want to do a quality project that everybody here will be proud of. Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Anyone else in favor? Anyone here opposed?
Well, I guess I just want to introduce myself. I'm Cleve Messer, and this is my wife, Sheila.
Your first name again?
Cleve.
Cleve.
C-L-E-V-E. The road study that Mr. Lloyd recommended, you know, I don't really see where it would actually help anything. It just costs quite a bit of money to do it. And the knoll up there that we're going to level down will actually help the road to start with. There's a gap that goes through there. Are you familiar with the gap I'm talking about when you go through up on the top of the little knoll?
No.
I was just going to take that, level it down, and the cemetery that's down below there, well, they'll have better access to it. And it'd be a lot better for the road. I mean, they'll at least be able to pull off there, and if they want to pull off there and look over the mountains, I just don't see where a road, it's going to help anything. I mean, I've done a lot of construction and a lot of building, which I, you know, ain't built nothing on Wires Valley, but I just don't see where it would help. It's a lot of money out of my pocket I just don't see, it ain't going to change the traffic. And as far as the egress and ingress, it's going to be already better than what we got, a lot better, and improve the road there and make a lot better access to the cemetery, give folks a place to pull up there and look at the beautiful mountains. Everything's more beneficial than it is anything. So, you know, I can use the money on the road. I can use it on something else that'll benefit the area a lot better than throwing it that way. And I'd appreciate it if you know, give us approval to do this project.
All right, thank you. If you, going up 321 and you turn left on Wares Valley Road, how far is it from the intersection around to this entrance?
That may be a good question for Derek.
If you're going up 321 to get to this property, you turn left on Wares Valley Road.
Correct.
And then you're going up, and there's a big curve. Where is this entrance that's shown on this layout? How far is it from that intersection?
If I may add, from Rudd Holler, that would be Rudd Holler. And the curve of the road, that's going to be Rudd Holler Road. Where's it at from there?
From Rudd Holler Road?
Yeah.
300. Well, you got, there's 800 feet of road frontage through there. Not counting Lowell, which was right beside it. You've got more than that. You've got about, I'm going to roughly say 1,000 feet of good straight road through there. And what I was going to say earlier, the egress and ingress, when we take that down, they can come in either way. It's going to be all flat up there, and they ain't going to have no problem coming in or getting out.
Okay, let me ask my question again. When you turn left on Wares Valley Road, how far is it up to the turnoff that you've shown here on this map?
How far is it to the property?
Quarter of a mile?
I'm going to say, what, 700 yards? From the turnoff, no, it'd be further down. From the turn at the light.
At the light? Is it a quarter of a mile?
Quarter mile.
Okay, now, if you cross the river and you turn right there where they unload the rafters, and you go back in that dead-end road, there's a house back there that's gated.
That is a,
How does this property match up with that gated house?
where you're talking about the dead-end house there, that used to be North River Road.
Yeah.
And that's been closed. And there was an agreement made with Hedrick and Burns to allow Burns an access through around that house where the road stops.
Oh, around the okay.
Correct, but they're not using that.
My question is, where does this property in relation to that property?
Okay, so it would be, I'm not sure.
Upstream?
Right
Is it
up.
upstream?
Yeah.
It is, yes, sir.
So it's upstream of that house that's gated?
That's correct.
That's what I need. That's what I'm trying to
And then there's a
get in
big mountain. I mean, you can't really go any further on the river. It just stops at a huge mountain.
my mind. Okay.
That's the last property on the river up through there that you can actually access, walking or any other.
I would add too, that's one of the things that, Burns was concerned about neighbors, and he had Hedrick on one side who seems to be just fine with what we're doing, and then on the other side, we've never met that neighbor, but it's just a mountain. I mean, I don't know how you would even get up to it. So when the Messers first came to me, that was one of the things that I pointed out. Hey, this is nice and private over here. Should be nice for the campers and nice for the neighbors. So.
Mr. Messers, did you do the condos and the family inn? Mm-hmm. Is that your motor home out front?
That was Fred, my partner.
Do you have a motor home?
No. I've got a fifth wheel.
Well, we're talking about the ingress and egress. When you grade that down, I know exactly where it's at, and you make it level, knock the little bank down and all that, do you intend to make widen the road there any for an entrance, slow down, and a speed up deal? Or is that part of the deal you don't feel you need a traffic study on?
I plan on doing that. That's part of, when you come from Wires Valley, when you start around the curve, the property line goes all the way to that curve. So we're going to take that knoll and kind of level it down in there, which is kind of on about I don't know, 45-degree slope or 50 or something.
So will that be like a 4-lane width of a road through that area?
You can pull off from that curve, you'll be able to pull off from that.
How much width will you put on your part added to the actual road for the motorhomes to slow down, back up, and all that in?
Some of that, I'll answer that just a little bit. I think a lot of that is going to be dictated by TDOT.
Well, that's why
because they're going to tell us what to do.
Yeah, that's why we need a road study. So just get ready to spend that money.
Well, I just don't. I didn't feel like what I intended to do there was that it can't do nothing. And
Yeah. Oh, it'll be great, but still.
Why are there two entrances?
Why are there two entrances? Well, he had a plan for those. You want to share what?
Mainly coming from Wires Valley, one of them, and coming from a lot of our traffic coming from north on 321. So by that way, it's going to be easy access in there.
Okay.
If you want to pull a motor home and a Jeep behind it or whatever, you've got plenty of room.
Well,
to pull in there.
One way will be the entrance only where they sign in, right? And the other is where they can just go in and out.
Yeah, well, all that will be where they can pull off on either way. Just pull right into the top. It'd be they won't have a problem, getting in and out of it.
So TDOT's going to determine what you do there. Okay.
Well, we've got plenty of room there to make that.
Well, next thing, what makes this a high-end motorhome park?
Well, a high-end?
Yeah, that's something I said. You said high-end.
Well, I'll tell you, one thing is the room, the space that the other campgrounds have is very small. And they squeeze the lots that Derek and them laid out for us and Chris. We want more open space for more room.
How wide is a lot?
Well, on the average, our lots, I think, did you bring them out? 35, was it 35 feet? No. 35 or 40 feet wide?
40 feet.
You're going to have vegetation between them, or just?
A what?
You're going to have any vegetation between them, or just lot?
Well, there'll be vegetation all the way down.
But not between them. Are these going to be pull-through lots, or back in, or pull?
Some of them you can back in on the river if you've got a coach.
Yeah.
You can back it in there. And we made them 65 feet in the front. As far as if you're pulling a vehicle, you've got to pull in there. Never unhook. Complete turnaround. Just like this, like an 8. You can go in and circle that and never have to go back out the same way. Other than when you're talking.
There's not any pull-throughs in Townsend at all right now. That just irks me to no end. You don't see no big motorhomes going through there.
Well, they're limited.
They're limited.
How they can get in there.
Yeah. So
I've looked at these and looked at these, and KOA will do a study for you too and lay out one for $30,000 with cabins, tents, campgrounds, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, dry pull-throughs, that'd be a big improvement.
We actually feel like that we have a lot of folks, you know, looking for spots like that. And it's, you know, when you go to a campground, you won't room. I would, you know, a little bit of room. And a lot of these older campgrounds, they put everything right side by side.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, you ain't got no room. When you open your door, you're right somebody. But we have planned on spreading these out quite a bit and giving them quite a bit of room and then easy access.
What kind of rates you gonna charge?
Well, it all depends on how much money I spend. No, on average.
Well, after you spend for that road study, you'll have less, but.
Right. And, you know, I just felt like I could use the money a little bit better because I know what's going to happen up on the hill, and I can't change the traffic amount that comes through there, but I can make it easier to get in and out.
You got a half acre down here devoted for septic field. Is that when Gary, I guess, does that? Is that a big enough? I don't know. But you have to put a big drip system in and all that, won't you?
That'll be one of the items we'll have to really nail down when we get into the site plan phase. You know, we may do, we'll look at the cost of doing a traditional septic system, or potentially maybe look at the cost of doing an on-site treatment system, you know, if it makes sense. So we kind of put that on there as a placeholder. But no, I don't think if it ends up being truly a septic system, that's probably not going to be big enough.
Are you going to pave it? Or is it going to break down?
I will eventually, yeah. I'll take, you cut a good wide road, and I think the specs on it's like 30 or 40 feet, I'm not sure. And then put the good gravels in, pack it, compact it, and I do a lot of that myself.
Whenever, you know, you do a subdivision, after certain size lots, you got to pave the road. When they done these subdivisions, did they consider the road being gravelled or paved, or when they finally got something decided, did they address how the roads were going to be?
For campgrounds?
Yeah.
Well, let's see what's in here. If you go to starts on the page that has, actually, it's the page I left out. Stand by. Okay. Oh, actually, no, it's not. I don't know what I've done here. Internal roadways, and this is, I don't know what the section number is, but it's 4C. All internal roadways have to meet the following requirements. Internal roadways shall be maintained so emergency vehicles can safely access all areas. All interior roadways shall be constructed with an adequate, well-drained base and be surfaced with a minimum of 4 inches of gravel. Roadway grade shall not exceed 10% for gravel roads, 13% for paved roads. Also have to do erosion control plan. And all internal roadways shall have a minimum width of no less than 14 feet for one-way traffic and 18 feet for two-way traffic. So asphalt isn't a requirement.
Yeah, see, I've been watching that thing since they've been playing with it. And I think they had a bunch of people come up with it that didn't go to campgrounds and didn't know a whole heck of a lot about it. But paving, if you go to any upscale RV park now, they're paved. And, you know, I think this is a great deal for pull-throughs and all that. And I know you're not broke, but I ain't got, you know, but if it were me, I'd pave that road.
Oh, I will as soon as I can.
As soon as you get a little money?
As soon as I can, I will pave it, that's for sure. I can't do all of that right now. That's a pretty big, lot to do. But it's gonna be a beautiful area. They'll be able to, like I say, when they come out, they'll be able to turn around and go out, and they'll have like 3 sections there, and there'll be a row of pines or whatever me and Lowell gets together, who wants to do there. And I've done talking to him. He's my neighbor down there at the condo, Mike Lowell. And we get along great. We don't have no problem at all.
Why is the address North River Road rather than the main road, Wares Valley Road?
Excuse me, sir.
Why is the address on North River Road versus Wares Valley Road? Because that's where it comes in and out.
Do you know?
North River Road, what road is that? I'd have to look at the plan. Is that your address?
Do what?
Is that your address?
Yes, 8803, is that? The easement that you're talking about, that goes, when you cross the bridge there is an easement that goes with this property, but we won't be using it. It goes to Lowell's property and then goes to my property.
Because that's where this address takes you. It takes you back down there next to the river.
Yeah.
Not up on Wares Valley Road.
Yeah, that's the old address that it was assigned, probably it was a 911 address for whatever reason, because I think that's because there's a structure there on the property, a shed or something.
Yeah.
So that would have been the address that was assigned by 911 to that shed.
Because the GPS takes you down there on the river, not up there.
Well, that would take you back there through that, and then you get to that gated area, but it's on back there.
Now, what we're being asked to do is for our opinions on whether this would be a viable project or not. That's what we're being asked for?
Well, we've got a closing date. We extended it till this meeting, so,
Basically, we just didn't want to spend, Cleve didn't want to spend $20,000 or $30,000 to start working on this thing and come in and say, well, we don't really want a campground here. That's kind of where we're at. So really, it's more looking at a use. I mean, we've got a site, we've got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of engineering to do and different things before we can come before you with a full site plan. Right now, we're just asking that you look at the use because it is a special exception use and say yay or nay to the use.
Well, there's campgrounds all around it.
Yeah, but now, and this is the reason, and please don't get me wrong. There's an opportunity here to make a great campground for the big rigs and not just a pop-up camper or Winnebago with 15 kids in it. And if you do that right, you're going to suck that business out of the other guys, and you're going to start seeing a lot of big units come in here. I think the city of Maryville ought to have a big RV top-end deal because a lot of people live in those things that's retired. They come stay a month or so, and they got money to spend if you got a nice one. So for what my 2 cents is worth, as far as the use goes, I love the use. That's just a challenge for him to dig in his pocket and make it really
Does that
classy.
mean you're in favor of this proposal?
I
Would you like to make a motion?
I would make a I would agree with the use.
Okay. So I have a motion from Stanley to agree with this request. Second.
Was there any conditions along with that? Because if you are to approve the use, we'd want it.
Pending seeing whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, because we would need to bring it back to y'all to have the site plan approved, and a.
Well, you list about 15 things here they got to do.
Yes, zoning wise, they have to meet all those standards.
And that's probably just a start, I'd say.
It is, because there's some technical considerations too, and I know I keep harping on the traffic study, but and Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but Wares Valley is a TDOT road, so there are going to be requirements for improvements.
Well, let's just say this. There's 3 documents here. There's a site plan review that's got 4 items on it. There's another document that's got 8. And then there's this 8-page document about the requirements for a campsite.
Well,
So
if a
all those
traffic,
have to be met.
if a traffic study is gonna choke you, you can't do it no way.
So as far as the traffic study is concerned, to me, I'm just going to be honest, it's a cart and a horse. It's a chicken and an egg, however you want to look at it. If you all are tasked with approving a use, and approving the use, when you look at it, not that it's just, you know, that the impacts of the use. Okay, so if you approve this, is it going to be detrimental to the surrounding property areas? You know, all the things that you have to look at in a special exception. Do you need to know the impact of the additional traffic, or do you look at it after the fact to see what the improvements are going to be required? I don't know. That's for y'all to decide. As far as TDOT is concerned, I'm guessing they're going to want a traffic study.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about the traffic study. I didn't know whether the county would bring it up or not, honestly. We've done some work on Wares Valley Road, and up to this point, I don't think we've ever done anything on Wares Valley Road that TDOT did not ask for a traffic study. So it's going to get done. I mean, you know, we might have a chance of talking the county out of it, but by the time we get to the state, it's going to get done. Correct. And my guess is what's going to happen is there's going to be recommendations for some decel lanes, probably some accel lanes, maybe a little bit of widening in front of this site. And along with the work that Cleve wants to do in terms of the grading out there on TDOT, because believe it or not, when he cuts that dirt out, he's actually got to buy it from TDOT. So there's a lot of things related to TDOT that have got to happen, and that's a process, and we'll work through that. I just didn't want to get these guys started on working through all that stuff without knowing that the use was an acceptable use from a special exception standpoint. There's a lot of site plan things that we've got to work out. The one thing I can say is, with a traffic study, it will work. I mean, the traffic impacts will be minimized, and it will work. That's what traffic engineers do. I'm not one, but they're pretty good at that. So it'll get worked out. It's just a matter of what he'll have to do to get it worked out.
And to Derek's point, and speaking for TDOT, they aren't going to sign off on improvements and different things to do to the road unless there's some engineering behind it, because of liability issues. And Mr. Messer, you know, if he's working in TDOT right-of-way or out there, they're not going to be okay with that unless there is some engineering support behind it, because lo and behold, somewhere down the road, somebody wrecks and it doesn't have anything to do with any of that, and by the time it gets to the deepest pockets, in this case TDOT, they have to have something to hang their hat on. So
well, you know,
that's kind of where all that comes from. And
you know, right now, you don't want to take a semi up through there. When you take a 40-foot deal and a 24-foot trailer behind it, you got a semi, and then getting in through there, it's hard telling what TDOT's going to tell you.
Well, and
those curves anyway.
there's a great deal of, I mean, again, we haven't gotten into the details of this yet with permitting with TDOT, just because we're a little premature for that until, but I mean, TDOT is very, you know, whoever is on that dozer out in the right-of-way will have a $1 million insurance policy, because they're not issuing you a permit if you don't have it. And whoever's working on that right-of-way out there, whether it be the owner or the contractor, will post probably on that site a $50,000 bond or letter of credit to be out on that right-of-way. I mean, it will be, it's a process with those guys, and they want to make sure that you're out there doing what you're supposed to be doing. So there won't be anything happen on that TDOT right-of-way or on Wares Valley Road that TDOT is not very much in favor of.
Let me ask a question. Can we amend your, to say that these comments would be met?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's three things here. You've got the requirements that have been set out for campgrounds, and you've got Thomas's letter that's got 8 items on it, and you've got one that's got 4. So let's just say that it has to comply with these recommendations that are before us.
I
Is
think
that
if, yeah, no, I think if the board is agreeable to conditioning it in that regards, and is that something that you would be comfortable with staff making sure that all this is good and then it don't have to even come back to y'all? I mean, that's your decision.
I'd like to come back to this.
Well, what we're being asked for, is this a good use of the property?
Correct.
And we say yes, if
Yeah.
it's a good, if it's done right.
Yeah.
And then and if I understand correctly, then once they have it, all the T's crossed and I's dotted, we'll bring that back to y'all and you can seal the deal.
Right.
So start.
So pretty much, we've got to close probably within a week on this, because we extended our closing.
Spend that money.
But I have to here pretty shortly. You know,
Marty, you got enough to put this into motion?
15.
Thank you.
I ain't got much time, and basically my main thing is to get it where I can go down and start preparing it to try to get over my spring. I'm going to lose a lot of time on the cleaning up, you know.
Well, I'm sure you've done your homework, but like I say, you got a great opportunity here.
So the motion is to approve the request for use under the understanding that they're going to meet these things that are in this packet, and then when all that's met, come back to us. Okay? Okay, guys? And Stanley made the motion. Have a second. Brian second.
Henry,
Yes.
Brian Keane,
Yes.
Larry Chester.
Yes. All right, it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are any other items to come before the board before we adjourn?
Well, I'd like two things.
Stanley?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is no reflection on anybody, but we were talking about the drip line for the setbacks and all that. How do we get a concrete deal on whether it's a drip? How do we get a concrete determination of whether it's the drip line for the setback or the foundation? Because I think prior, I'm pretty sure we went to the foundation, but if it's to the drip line, instead of us bouncing back, how do we get a clear determination on that?
So as we talked about in the emails earlier this month after the last meeting, in my opinion, and I guess really it is up to my interpretation as a building commissioner. I can interpret it, you know.
And I agree. The only difference is I think that's a change from the interpretation we were running on, and if that's correct.
It may be, but if it is a change, it goes in conflict with what's written on the back of the building permit, which I didn't write there. On the back of the building permit, it has how the setbacks are to be measured. And I don't know when the last time the building permit was changed, but it wasn't me. So if I'm okay with it either way. And
well, me too.
But as we talked about before, I worry about that being abused.
Yeah.
If you don't include the drip line, then you start having stuff that's cantilevered out for 30 feet and all sorts of crazy stuff. Probably the best way to make it crystal clear would be to amend the zoning resolution to clearly define what it is, and then it's in, which is a process. It'd have to take the planning commission and the board of the county commission to amend it. But I'm certainly not opposed to that.
And one of the things I'm thinking about is if it goes to the drip line, you basically have reduced to the size of the house you can put on a lot. And on small lots that can get crimped, but if I see both ways.
But if you don't go to the drip line, you put your roof on somebody else's property.
No, if you got a 10-foot
You
setback.
could go right to the plane of the property
Yeah.
line in theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
So in
but
previous codes that I've worked out of, they kind of found a middle ground. It actually was measured to the plane of the foundation wall, okay, which I think is reasonable, and it's easier to determine if you're in compliance or not, because that's what the surveyor is going to shoot when they do a foundation survey.
That's right.
And then, there may be a thing in there that says, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but uncovered stairs, terraces, landings, fireplaces, those sorts of things may project into a yard setback, but by no more than
Yeah.
3 or
Well-
6 feet or whatever. And that kind of is the best of both worlds. You can't abuse that, and it's easy to,
Well, am I being logical and asking?
I think it's perfectly logical. And that,
Okay.
and again, I kind of see it either way. And in my previous lives, we've always measured them
Right.
to the foundation. And then, here, it's not clear in the code which one way or another, but it does say furthest extent, which would, the intent may be the drip line. And then that was sort of, solidified to me when I'm trying to make an
Yeah.
interpretation by what,
Yeah.
previous
And I
have
understand
put on the
both of them.
permit.
There's a gray area here.
There
that
is.
We shouldn't have.
I agree.
Item number 2.
I am perfectly willing to initiate the process of clearing it up in the zoning resolution. It'll take a little time, and I think in the meantime, we should kind of stay the course with where we are instead of changing the interpretation. And then, I can update you all on that as we go. But if you're agreeable to sort of the middle of the ground,
I-
middle of the road approach, I think that works best.
Item number 2, and this makes no deal one way or another, it's just a matter of when the BZA approves something under these stipulations, and you're 10 years into the plan and those stipulations are no longer met, what happens? Does it have to be called to our attention that it ain't right again, and we have to get them make them do it? And what I'm getting at, and the only reason we done it to begin with, is up at Townsend on that big old prehistoric tree on top of the hill, that tower, that cell tower. We made them put limbs on it. Well, the limbs have rotted off. Now it's just a full-blown cell tower, which is great. Nobody cares. I don't care, and I'm sure the people up there don't care because they got cell coverage. But my point is, if they were supposed to kept it on it, and then over a period of time they decide, well, let's take this off because we want to put another cell receptor up there, what do we do? Nothing unless somebody complains?
Well, no, not necessarily. So you'd have to go back and see how the conditions of approval were written. We have to think like lawyers, okay?
Right.
Because you better believe they're going to have one when you try to get them to do something, okay? But as far as in general, a condition, so a special exception is tied to the property and runs forever. Any conditions of approval, in theory, do the same. So if it's in place, unless it is written specifically to, that it is for a
Time's out.
and unless it times out, then in theory it goes on with it. So if that's a
But again,
concern,
if nobody's ever complained or say anything about it, we don't care either.
well, they will now. They're going to watch you on YouTube.
Oh, they only be on YouTube?
Yes, sir.
I'm like Stan, this don't have anything to do with anything. It's like a McKinsey thing tonight. Okay? Like I say, it don't bother me, but people left there tonight thinking, Jack, and Jack. You could have done some, no, we couldn't do nothing.
Correct.
And that's, is there something that can be put in the packet that they get that says, the board is, all they can do is this right here. They got nothing to do if his house looks like this or looks like that. You need to take that up with your codes inside of your subdivision, but.
And I was kind of trying to help y'all to that effect.
You did.
But what you're doing, what this board is tasked with doing, you're kind of built into a little box, because variances, they're governed by state law. So there's certain, and that's why I was pointing you back to the reasons why you can approve it or reasons why to not, because that comes directly from state law. And so the board has to be very careful and you all do a good job, but you have to be careful to, take kind of, yes.
I've seen both sides of it.
And you should be accepting, evidence. You're kind of sitting like a judge in a variance, okay? You're accepting the evidence. You can go do your site visit. You can see how things look, and you accept testimony. And you have to be like Judge Judy. You have to figure out, separate the wheat from the chaff there, and make your decision because,
Well,
See you guys. Thank you. Yes, sir.